Hi, my name's Darren, and I want to welcome you to this course on how to connect MyMatLab to Brightspace. And I want to take a little bit of time to walk you through a kind of a two-part series here. One using MyMatLab with an existing math course that's using a Pearson MyLab product. And the second part is how to make those connections and how to build it. So let's just look at the first piece here and let's look at how we're going to use it. So if you're familiar with MyMatLab, so MyMatLab is a Pearson resource, and if you've got it on a nice link, I have it here actually, and you've created yourself an educator account and been approved for the resources. So if you're using a MyLab product, my biology, my math, you can get in your courses and create a template. So to show you what I did here first, so as we move into a new term and our courses are getting created, so our courses appear and you customize those and you use the import tools to import previous content and all your relevant learning material for this delivery. You're also building or bringing forward from an older course. So this was one of the years where we actually started a brand new version 11 book. So I had to kind of start from scratch a little bit and build a new template. So just to kind of show you what the template looks like. So I've gone in and customized a template using the Chapter 11 book. I put some specific links for the college. I put a welcome message. I tested all of my assignments. So I'll talk a little bit about more of my assignments momentarily. But here's just an example of a template. Now this I didn't have all the assignments in here yet. Just to give you a section, this was my first section 1 chapter test. And I'll show you how it all works in a second, but I've gone through the rich library of resources by chapter and pulled out questions that are relevant to my competencies. And I'll explain more about how this works in a moment. So if I back up and look at some of the resources that are available in the MyMatLab. So one of my favorites is the Pearson eText, so our math engineering textbook used for 3 terms, fairly heavy little fellow. And if you look at the eText, so if you've bought the access code along with the paper version of the book, you'll get access to this eText, so it's a great resource. This will allow you to go through it by section. So we're going to be picking on chapter 11. So just to kind of show you that this is essentially the textbook, and you can scroll through it. And as we go through the chapters, it'll bring up all the different material that's there. And basically, this is exactly what it looks like in the book. So not to spend a lot of time on that side of it, but you can understand that this is the ebook version. Lots of great functionality here for adding a bookmark, for finding a pick your topic, for making it larger or smaller, adding things to your notes, understanding where you left or where you went. So lots of cool things here that the students can learn to use. Now this is also, if they access this Brightspace page and get to this link with an iPad or their phone, so it is device sensitive and it works really well. So just to kind of give you a sense that the eText is there as part of the MyMatLab course. There's lots of great resources by chapter as well. There is also, once they start using things, they can look at their student view. This is the instructor home, so I can start looking at the performance, and I can look at how much time they spend on a particular assignment, and I'll show you that with a real example momentarily. So without spending a lot of time talking about how to create the course, very straightforward, not unlike our Brightspace. So all the resources for the textbook are there. You pick the chapters and you build your assignments. And now we just need to know, well, how does it all work? Well, I like to build a template. So this, you can see here, I've made this an instructor course, and the instructor course allows me to copy it. So you can see here I have 1 copy. Now, I actually used this template to create this course 72823. Now students, if they ask you for the instructor code, they're going at it the wrong way. If you really want to keep this secure to your Brightspace course, don't give them any code like this. They're not going to be able to get it into this course only by access through Brightspace, and I'll demonstrate that. So this particular course is copyable, and it's copyable by anyone that has the code. So a course instructor on another campus teaching the same course wants to use the resource, I've made it available. You can copy this quite freely. And you'll notice the difference between these three courses. These three courses all have Llewellyn 57264. There's the original one I copied, 72823. And that one is the version that I built off this one. Now, once I customized this one, and I copied it 2 more times. So these ones, because they're not instructor courses, don't indicate they've been copied. You can see by inspection, I have different people enrolled. So if I pick on one of these here, I'll get my enrollment list. I can see when their particular E-code is going to expire. I can see if they're an active student, not active student. So I can kind of go through my roster and see who's currently set it up. So I often just provide a little bit of make it a bit of a game between classes to see who can get be the first class to get to 100%. That seems to be something they all buy into quite easily. And what I want to do is I want to build the course from a template. All right, now I'm going to show you how it works first, and then we'll come back and use this instructor course to create the necessary links in Brightspace. So it uses a starting point to build this link. All right, so let's go back to Brightspace and have a look. So this is the course we will make a connection to. And I just want to show you that as you go into this, it's just a simple 1089 course. And notice that there's really no reference to Pearson or MyMatLab. If I jump into a course that does have those links, so that's referred to as a widget. And when I look into Junior 1, you'll notice here that this one has a widget. Now I've actually put a little note on this one as well. It says access code to proceed. So I put a little splash on there so they know that this is, not that it's restricted, but some people like to buy secondhand books, get a real good deal on them, and then they get a little upset that they don't have access to the Pearson resources. Well, Pearson gives us a pretty reasonable deal for the book with the code, and the code itself is about usually runs about 2/3 of the actual price of a brand new book. So if you buy the brand new book, they give you the code. So it's a deal for us in Civil. We use the book 3 times, so we get good value for it. But essentially, once I have my Pearson MyMatLab connections working, I will build this little widget. So when they come in, they can click on Pearson, and if it is linked, and this one is linked, you'll get the next step to the course. Now, for students that haven't signed in with their account yet, so what that means is they need to build an account, and that can be done one of 2 ways. That can be done just strictly from the Brightspace course, and as you tunnel through, it's going to ask you to create your student account, and it's going to ask you to put in your student course ID, or in this case, it won't ask you that. It'll ask you to put in your e-text code, your access code in step 3, and then the connection will be complete, and this will go away for the second login. So for the first time, they need to know who they are and their access code. So it's independent to us. They need the access code. So when we're here, so when we're making this jump from MyMatLab through the widget to the actual Pearson MyMatLab link, you'll notice, because I'm logged in as the instructor, I have instructor tools and student tools. Now the students will just see these student tools. These are the 3 links they're going to see. They can go to some of the Pearson announcements that are on the Pearson MyMatLab course. They can go to the home page that I've created, or they can just look at the assignments. So let's take a look and just see what assignments that were set up. So we had these assignments and a sample test setup. And I just like in Brightspace, you pick from when you're building a test. And the nice thing is the database is built. I just get to pick what I want. If I look at chapter 11 here, just as a sample, I can go and do a quick little review on this. So as students leave Brightspace and I direct them to attempt a question. So let me just pick on question 1, something nice and easy. And it's going to give me a screen here. It's going to show me what it wants me to complete. It wants me to answer the question, provide me some tools for answering it. The greatest part about it, if you like this, if you had found this question difficult and you want another question, it'll give you another one. If you're finding it difficult, maybe I put in C4 and I say, let me get another question here. I'm going to put in B3. That's not the answer. I'll use the uppercase 3, check my answer, and unfortunately, no, that's not it. Okay, so I can ask for some help. So help me solve this, or I could ask my instructor. I typically encourage them to really spend a little bit of time and connect with the resources first, make that attempt, view an example, which is a great way to give them some feedback. They can slide that over, walk through it part by part. Some of them are only 2 or 3 parts. Some of them actually are quite long, 7 or 8 parts, so it takes them some time to go through it. You can say, give me some help. Are the bases the same? Yes, they are. Yeah, so it'll walk me through the steps. And at some point in time, when I finally do get the right answer, so let's try the answer here. And once we finally get the right answer, we can either ask for a new question. So, or we can continue on with the rest of the assignment, come back, and once we're more confident, come back and tackle this one again. If we think we want to take another shot at the answer, let's try this. Let's check the answer. Fantastic. I love the little congratulations here. And they evolve. It's not the same kind of answer every time. And as you see, now that I've got a question right, I can go and look at the questions. This one should now be marked as right, or it maybe require me to do another one before I get it. You can see I got question 7 wrong. So lots of questions here. Some are pretty straightforward. The nice thing about the MyMatLab, it actually also can calculate the amount of time required by the average student. So based on some of their statistics. So I think this one was designed as about a 2-hour assignment. So we did a little bit in class. We did a little bit together. And I let them do about 3/4 on their own. So to give you a little idea how the resource works, okay? So I can bail on that any time. It'll remember where I left off. They can come back, whether you decide to let them improve their score before the due date, or even let them improve their score after the due date, but not for marks. That is all part of the settings. That all can be modified. I'm going to jump back out and show you the course home. So a lot of students will just maybe use it for the eText version. So we already had a quick look at that. I just wanted to show you that essentially you could go through the widget and access the eText and then see the eText version, flip through it page by page. Now for me, this was an active course. So the students had a number of things to do in here. You can see things for past due. There, I can go and look at my incompletes for a quiz. I might want to send them something saying like, okay, what's up? You didn't attempt this. Okay. And actually what I've done is I've used my sample test here as a way of understanding whether they're ready for a real test. So that's helped a lot, and it took them a little bit of time to get used to the environment a little bit, because sometimes an answer would be close, but it's not considered equal. So that's probably still a little bit of a work in progress, but overall, they get confident and they get the content down, and then they're ready for a real test. So lots of things here to evaluate, and by student, by topic. So there are lots of tools here that we could spend a whole hour in itself just looking at this part of it and seeing how we can use their results to help them, to encourage them, to move them along. Okay, so in terms of management of the assignments, you can create an assignment, a test, a quiz, and once it's built, so I build mine here so they are the same chapters I'm covering in my Brightspace course. And if I want to look at editing them, so this was an assigned one, so it's not going to let me change the. Let me pick some new questions because I've already made it active. But if I back out of this and I cancel this, I'm going to leave this. If I wanted to create a new assignment, I'm going to create some homework here. I'll call it a bogus section 6. Okay, I'm going to just pick chapter, I want to guess here, chapter 23. And that's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to be able to go to, not 23, I think I've turned that one off. So I have actually gone through the course management, and I've actually reduced the amount of chapters that are available to them. So I'm going to have to back up here and pick a chapter that's a little bit, that's available here. Let me just pick 22. So chapter 22. Introduction to Statistics. Okay, so let me just look at this question. So this question here, I'm going to add it to the questions I'm picking. If I want to do a quick little inspection on it, that's what it does. Okay, and when I add it here, let me add some other ones. Go down, maybe add some tougher ones here, and I add them in. I can reorder them. Okay, I can give them different weights. Let's say that's a little tougher one, so I'm going to make it a little different weight. Okay, I can view the homework, sort them, slice them, dice them. You kind of get the idea. Lots of questions to pick from. I can do it by section. I can do it by a couple different ways. I can filter them, but essentially I can also, think about the difficulty, how long it's going to take. And if you really want to create your own questions, there is an environment for doing that as well. So it's going to take a little bit of time. I'm not going to do that with this particular exercise. I'm trying to use in this case, the 7,000 or 8,000 questions that are available. I decided that there was more than enough questions for me to pick from, some of them very relevant to my specific training area, civil engineering. So I didn't spend a lot of time trying to make my own questions. So you save it. I'm going to go next here. You can put date, how you handle late submissions, prerequisites, other chapters. You can't attempt it before you get something else finished. So lots of control. You can allow other instructors to import it. So save and assign. If I just save it for now, I'm not going to assign it. So we'll say I'm just building it. So if I was building my template and I wanted to just build my chapters, have a look at them, okay, and then I can decide whether I'm going to assign it, delete it. I can make even custom settings for students. So if a student needs extra time, in here I'll give them extra time. Okay, so you can print the question list if you like and give it to them in advance. Sometimes they like to have that. So lots of functionality here to make life easy. So I can concentrate on teaching the subject, and they have a great resource. In my mind, the help that's available here is far better than the TutorMe tools. So we tried this in class one day, and we did a comparison on how quickly we could get the answer versus the Pearson help versus the TutorMe app, and it was a clear winner. The Pearson resources here offered a 5-to-1 speed return. So if they bought the E-code, they have access to this resource. It is an incredible resource, and successfully and unanimously, students really appreciated having it enabled. So to show you the benefits, I'm going to jump out of this for a second. And let's go back to our actual course. So let me back out of this. So let me go back to my active course, which has this widget. So where did this widget come from? The widget came from the edit menu in Brightspace. So by default, like this course here, it doesn't have any. So I need to add the widget. I'm going to make a custom widget. So let's go under Edit Course. And we're going to go under Widgets, under Course Administration. And you'll notice by default, your home page, so that's the first tab, your home page here is going to be, that's part of the template that the college makes when your Brightspace course was built. So they're using some preset settings for that. That's great. Most of us change the graphic, but if we go and make a new home page, so I made a new home page. Now I'm not going to make another new one. I'm going to edit my existing one. You can give it a name and description. These are just the names that are used so you can relate to it and decide whether you want it as a widget-based type. Yes, that's what I want. So let me show you the one I made. I made this one, MyMatLab, or My Math and Pearson widget. That's just the name I gave it. This is the one the college made. So I want to make this one active once I've built it and tested it. So let's look at what I built here. Now I really didn't change a whole lot. I gave it a name. I gave it a description or not. I call it widget based. And I went down here and these are my widgets. So there's my widget. And if I want to customize it and make a couple little, whatever the widget properties are, I want to hide the properties here. So how would I add this? Now I'm gonna add another widget. Lots of different widgets here. I don't know how many people like to add widgets, but I add things like news and extra user links and maybe Office 365 links. But there is this little guy here. So the MyLab, so whether that's my biology, my chemistry, my math, whatever, you can add a MyLab connection widget. So once I add it, I'll have the widget and I can change how the widget looks, where it's docked. I can change the layout, whether I want to go with one panel, two panels, multi-panel. As you pick different panels, some of these, just be on the lookout, some of these panels don't really suit themselves very well to different types of devices. So more panels means more squeezing. So keep something simple. I typically use a very simple panel like the basic or the basic plus. And I decide where I'm going to put it and I test it a little bit. So I move them around, change the layout, and I save it and close it. And I make it my default by picking my default here. Okay, and then I go and test it. So here's my pre-calculus and statistics course. Now I put this little note on here, this little * access code to proceed. So I keep telling them on day one that this is the benefit of having it. Okay, I will. This is the 1 year that I had 100% buy-in. All students had access to the system, so it was my one chance to actually force them to write tests and quizzes because everybody had the code. There's always about 10% that don't want to buy the book, don't want to buy the code because they're going to go alone. They got this mastered and they don't need the resources. So I always feel like I can't make the test mandatory or the quiz mandatory. But I did this year and got some interesting results. Let's look at how did I customize that a little bit. So if I went back into my edit course and my widgets, so there is a little bit of customization, not much. In my home page. So if you've done any customizing on your Brightspace widgets, you might be quite comfortable in here. This is a little bit of an interface to let you make some changes here. So I added this little custom. By default, there's nothing. Okay, I can prohibit them from minimizing the widget because I want them to be in their face, so to speak. Display a title, yes or no. Okay, so that's about all they can change for what they see, but that's not the only place they're going to see. That's just at the front page. That's just at the home page. They're going to get that splash. It's going to be kind of in their face, and I always remind them to at the beginning of class, just to make sure that's linked. And remember my test, I give them a little stats at the beginning of the class saying Junior 1, like you got 90% buy-in, you don't have the title yet, just a few more, come on, let's do this. So it usually takes a week or so. Usually the first assignment, then I get pretty good buy-in, and everybody is now a believer. So that's what it looks like. Now, if I actually go into the content area, so I could get at the MyMatLab through Brightspace that way, or I could actually go into the actual content. So let's look at my particular course. So here's a chapter 11. Once I get through the course outlines and I talk about the resources that are available, then we start looking at, okay, how am I going to do the actual chapter? So we were studying chapter 11, and I provided them with this thing first. Now, this is just my way of encouraging them. So what I provided them with here is a little document, and it says, here's your assignment, chapter 11. So I just did this in Word. And at the end of it here, I said, look, these things in red are things that are possibly going to give you extra help. So I intentionally picked a lot of questions in the paper book that actually had the equivalent, the exact same number, 11.25. So 11.1.5. We did look at that one a second ago. I got that wrong, then I got it right. So that was the first one I showed you, 11.15. And that one read, so I got 94 questions from the book. 79 are available, the exact same things available on MyMatLab. Now remember, if they get this wrong, they can actually ask for another one and practice, practice, practice. So I tell them, have you practiced on MyMatLab? So I give them this handout, and I also put it on Brightspace here in PDF format. But these questions in red stating that, there's lots of resources here if you have the code. Okay, and I also, because we're still in engineering, we still want to do things paper-based. Now, this may change as we move along here in this new post or during COVID times, but they were still doing things on paper because we need to practice the calculations and the professionalism of actually doing calculations on engineering paper. So I had to make a special note that on MyMatLab, if you pick another question, you're going to get not the same one I'm going to mark. Okay, now I would love to just jump in cold turkey and say chapter 11 all on MyMatLab and the thing that mark itself. That would be fantastic, but we'd be missing out on some pretty important competencies of professional calculations, graphing, charting, drawing, and still missing a part of it. So for our first year students, that's still an important piece that carries over into other courses, and we didn't want to miss that. So I was using MyMatLab as a great resource, but they were still doing some of it on engineering paper. Okay, so I provided them this. Red ones are available for extra help. Lots of great things, lots of great resources. So let's go back and look at how an actual link works. So I would have had other resources like slides and things from the book. I made some references to some really cool apps, but this is this is the link here that's actually going to take me right to the learning tool. So watch the behavior of this. Once I've set this up in section 1, chapter 11, this is going to actually take me directly to the, so even though we're still in Brightspace, we have used that connection, that link to the MyMatLab. It's basically logging us in, checking our code, checking that you have permissions, and you can see that there's my latest score. I got 1 out of 78 right. Now remember, I gave them 94 questions. 78 of them are on MyMatLab, so they're still going to have to do a few independently on their own. So if I want to review and do some more work, I can go right from Brightspace. I'm basically in MyMatLab now. I'll pull up the question 1 again. Maybe let's do question 1 again. So now we're connected, and this is the real benefit. So maybe now, okay, I think I'm good at it now. I think I can do this. So let me check that. Let me see if I got this right. All right, so they gave me a similar question, and I'm gonna try it this time. and it's great. I got it right. I'm off to the next question. So maybe I do a little bit here, a little bit there, and I close that. And you can see that the student now has made an improvement. The check should be there. I'm not quite sure why it doesn't update yet. Probably updates on the next refresh. So I plug along and I keep working on the assignment. So that's how it works when it's all running properly and they have the code, an active account, the widget has been connected. Now, but how did I build this part? How did I build the section 1, chapter 11? Where did that come from? Well, I actually, once I have the links, I can go and build a learning tool. So once I build the content, so we've got lots of great things we can add. So, but if I want to add an activity from my external learning tool, that being MyMatLab, I can scroll through here, but since now this is now connected to my MyMatLab, all my chapters are available. Okay, now it shows me a couple, I'm not quite sure why it's showing me repeat versions, maybe because I've been playing with it, but here is, so if I wanted to add in chapter 5, okay, so chapter 5 is going to be near the bottom, move it up, depending on where you want to put the order. So there's my chapter 5, and it's just that easy. So you can see I've customized the description for this to add a little bit of, some sort of detail, but this one I just added, so I made a mistake. I'm going to delete that one. So delete the topic, deletes the link, doesn't remove the content. MyMatLab is still intact because that's just basically an external link, and it's all good to go. So, and anywhere along here, you can add in any kind of learning tool. So you can add in a connection to the assignments. You can add a connection into the textbook. You could add a connection into, so a lot of different ways to add in things. So you could just add in an actual launch. So actually, if you notice in my math resources, I created a little section here and I gave them some details on how to actually get started. So I encourage them before they got into the chapters to use the first link, which is just a learning link that makes their first connection. I gave them a little heads up, also provide them with a little video. It says, hey folks, here's how you do it. So this is now a video in a video. And this is going to guide them through, hey guys, this is how you do it. Okay, and I tried to encourage them that this is a great way to improve your mark. Pearson research shows that users of the MyMatLab in conjunction with the existing course can on average do 20 to 25% higher mark. So that's a pretty big number for people that typically like to buzz around 60s and 70s. To get an 80 instead of a 60 would be a real, a real positive learning experience for them. So I did all I could to convince them this was worth their effort. This was worth their resources. And so now this is kind of my standard link now. And then as I jump into chapter 11, so I'll use the slides and I'll do my in-class lecturing and flip classrooms and all kinds of activities. But essentially, this particular chapter is going to be a great support tool when they're stuck and they're trying to work independently. So I always encourage them to go use the resource first before they ask me. So get into that habit of using resources that are available. Okay, so if I look at another chapter, there's also, so I got in that pattern, got in that routine. So there's my instructions for chapter 16, and then my section link down here, the assignment again, some test review questions that I may enable just like before the test. It also can grade sync. So if you build your graded items and you want that to be part of a graded item, it's easy to do. So you can see here I have section 5, chapter 1. I also have a quiz. So I had a test that was an external link. So I don't know if it's 3 or 4. One of them here was a link. So you can build a quiz. You can decide whether it's for marks or not for marks. So I think this one here was the synced graded item. Yes, so you can see in the description here, this looks like a bunch of gobbledygook, but what this is the section 5, chapter 21 results. I gave them some time and I gave them a little bit of a warning saying, oh, okay, I'm getting ready to sync it. Okay, you can improve your score if you like. And then once I went to MyMatLab and said, okay, sync it up. So instead of making it live, I kind of let them just kind of work away at it. And then at some point in time, I grab it. So when I grabbed it, it took this link, it grabbed the marks, and it put them in. So this one here was I made it out of 50, and you can make it as a bonus if you like. And the weight is actually worth 10%. So it was worth quite a bit. I gave them that in advance of the Chapter 5 test to see how well they were doing as just my first chance because I had 100% buy-in and it went really well. They really, overall, the scores on the Section 5, Chapter 1, MyMatLab results were really well. We're probably, I can go look at the stats, but I think in the 80% or higher average. So really good. They some questions were a little tougher. I didn't make them all. They weren't all easy. And they overwhelmingly said that was provided an extra resource that they really appreciated once they got comfortable with it. So grades possible, assignments, links, widgets. You got a pretty good idea on how it works. So let's take a second now that we see the benefits. Let's take a second with an actual course and let's see how we actually make it connect. So I can also provide you with my video. But essentially, this course, you can tell, has no widgets. I'm going to check in the course that it doesn't have a widget. Maybe it's just turned off. Maybe I'm using the default home page instead of the... So I did have one here, and it looks like there is one. I'll make that one my custom one, and I'll have a quick look at it and see if it has a widget on it. Yeah, there's a My Master link if I try it. So it's just a plain widget. There's been no customization to it. And you'll notice that this one is a little different because there is no list here of the different versions, the different things you can do. It says, oh, why don't we create the link? So let's go ahead. Let's walk through that. So if this was your first time, okay, you would have built a template. Now you can copy an existing course if you like. So I've got all my assignments in this one, so I may copy one of these ones. But essentially, build your template, make it look and feel and, restrict and turn off some chapters. Don't make it too overwhelming for them. Keep it so it just covers the content you need. When you're in your Brightspace and you're getting ready to link it, I'm going to say, okay, let's create or copy. All right, so I'm going to take a second and walk through this. So I'm going to select from my existing courses, as long as you're logged in. I'm currently logged in. If you weren't, log yourself in. I can pick from my existing course list. So here's my templates, and here's some of the courses that I've built in the past. Okay, here's my Junior 1. So this one's a little bit more developed with my assignments and quizzes. Okay, so I could copy that one, or I could, if I have a really good developed template, I could copy that one. So I'm just going to use my template one because that's kind of what I designed it for. This is an actual student course, not an instructor copy of a template to make a template, but this is an actual course. I'm going to give it a name, math. I'm just called How to Use MyMatLab. Once I spell here, okay, this is a test, this is a demo. Okay, and I'm going to pick some dates. Now I typically, you can't go back, so let's pick today. And I'm going to go and let it go. I usually let it go a little bit beyond the course. I usually let it go till the end of the season. So let's go to the end of summer. So let's say they're going to be working on it over the summer. Novel idea. But also, if we wanted to build a course and they wanted to do some work, some remedial work over the summer to get ready for a more advanced course, we could do that as well using the exact same book, exact same resources. Okay. There's my little instructor can copy link if I want to build this and other people can make a copy of it. Not this one. I've made my template available. I won't worry about this one. I'm going to say go ahead, create the course. Now it's going to take a minute. This is where we add a little Jeopardy game here, and we all take a moment and grab a coffee. It says up to 3 hours. In my experience, it doesn't take that long, especially depending on the time of year. I'm gonna just gauge this one. I'm gonna hit the pause button here, and I'm just gonna keep track of how long it takes. Well, as you can see, it didn't take very long at all. So it sent me a link here, and here is, I want to go learn about how it works. I can sign in, download the student registration instructions. So I usually put this on Brightspace as well. But if I provide them with the link to make the connection first, so this is the one part I don't tend to give them this. Well, this one is customized because it is a linked course. So linked courses are different than just courses that you have the code for, which is truly external. So this one, they'll just basically come from Brightspace, enter the code at that time, and be good to go. So let's come back and look at it. Active, so the widget should work now. So I'm going back in my Math Fundamentals course. I'm going to try MyMatLab and Mastering. And I should notice, since I've been through this process once now, that I can now go ahead and see my assignments. So if I was a student, I have a few links that are available to me. As we already talked about, there's my chapter 1. That's right from the template. So I can go and try that question 1 again. And that should be how easy it should be for students to get back into an assignment to do the actual work. So if they want to spend 20 minutes working on their assignment, there should be no problem. You know, it'd actually take less time to get, it would take more time to get pen, paper, and book ready than it would be for them to get back into an assignment. So I can look at my score. I can see, let's see if it, yeah, there's a check mark. So perfect. So you can see I've already done 1.28% of it, one of the 78, since I was getting them to do some of it on paper as well. They were actually using this. They were actually finding that they were doing this as they're writing it down, as they're practicing doing it conventionally. This was a resource they had up on their laptop screen or on their phone, and as they're walking through it, it was helping them. So this is a great checking tool. So it's actually also faster than looking at the back of the book. So the questions obviously get harder, but if I bail on that, actually let me hit save here first. Update that. I think it saves anyway. I'm going to close the homework. So pretty easy to make it connect, pretty easy to link. I can build a section link for this now. If I want to go and do some administration on it, I could go into the course home and I could log into the actual course and make some changes. So once I know which one's linked, okay, the other part here is the making the connection for the grade. So I'm going to show you that quickly. Let me bail on this again. All right, so let's say the test actually is part of a grade sync. So we can go to our sync settings here and we can pick a chapter 11. And I usually link it, put grade sync off. So what I do is once I think they're all finished, then I go and manually sync them. Now, you can do this on the fly if you like. So as soon as they finish, they see their mark change back in Brightspace. Pros and cons. I like them to kind of just have a second to maybe attempt, improve their mark. Okay, so I can see here synced. It's synced one item with my course. So I would have to go and look at where that has been placed. So let's go back into my math class here and under my grades. And let's have a look. So it's added a piece in here. Where'd it go? It's on the bottom. So if I want to move it up into a section, okay, so if you build this, or if you at least leave the spot for it, knowing in advance what you're going to assign to it. So maybe instead of doing a conventional one, I'm going to do it like this. And so I'll move this. So it's under assignments. Of course, assignments are worth too much now, but you can see I'm going to have to fix that. And then I can change the order. So there's my section 1, chapter 11. Okay, so if I build that in advance, I could also provide a link in Brightspace right to the grade item. So it just depends on how slick you want it to happen. Then you can control how often it goes forwards and backwards. I typically would leave that off, turn it on, hit sync when they're finished. I say that's it, time's up. And I tend to leave my syncs off, and I do my manually. If they're going to blaze ahead, then you can make that decision to let them sync automatically. That's up to you. So great syncing, great resource for helping students, easy to connect. If you want to build it as just a simple link at the start of your course, so as a widget, so you can build your widget so it'll connect automatically. The first time through, they'll have to make all those connections, put in their code, create an account. The second time through, it's pretty elegant. It's pretty slick. So they just have to come to their home page, pick on it. It's going to log them in. It's going to run them through. I can go to the course. Now, depending on whether you want to go as an external full page or whether you want to embed it inside of your Brightspace course so it looks like they really haven't left home, so to speak, you can do that. As the instructor, there's resources in the MyLab to keep them on the track for success. So that's another chapter in itself. So I know we covered a lot of stuff, but I think for me, the benefit of buying in and spending a couple days or a couple hours, I can do it in 20 minutes now. I can make the connections, copy one of my templates, and get into the guts of planning for my term. Pretty straightforward now, and it doesn't take me a lot of time because I've spent the time to build the template, and I can, as long as the book version doesn't change, I'm good for another 2 or 3 years. Pearson did actually this time, they were really good about this particular book, that I could bring the old book, the chapters, some of the questions forward. So there are some tools. If the book is completely different, then yeah, you're kind of starting from ground zero again. But we've been using this book. We use this book for 3 terms. I actually built this course, and I've made it a generic resource. So it's not a course. You can see one of my students. He just there was actually more in it. Some of it I've kicked out now. But we have a resource page in the civil department that is more generic. That's not for marks. It's just a resource center, and I'll take you to it. So let's look at the current term that we're just finishing. And here's my resource center. This is available to all civil technology students. And I have also created a link here, but I've also in the content just we have different types of content that's different than course content. I have some course specific content, and I've provided this engineering link. So this is the Engineering Math Resource Center. I've made it available from September to June. And here are the 3 links. So they could go right to the text. So they can use their code for more than one course as long as it's the same book. So some instructors that weren't comfortable with setting it up, I just said, hey, look, they can go actually get all the content, all the e-text, the library. So let's look at the library. There's a really rich library of videos, of activities, of PowerPoints for a particular section. So let's look at chapter 11. So remember, this is just a learning tool that I've added a link. It's found some resources in that chapter, some of the slides. And so if they want to download the slides, the student versions, they can certainly go ahead and do so. If there was an video, maybe some videos that were related to chapter 11, maybe something that they were having some problem with. So maybe they're really having some challenges with negative exponents. So I tell them there's just some good videos on that. Go onto your library, multimedia library, and fire it up. So also dependent on your network speed. So this is kind of like a Khan Academy, but relevant to the actual questions. So I think this question here is an actual question that I picked in the assignment. So whether they knew it or not, if they were really struggling and they went and looked, it's actually one of the exact same ones. So I think that was just by luck, by fluke. I don't think they do that with every single question, but some of the ones that were struggling caught on really quickly that if they used all the resources, they get all the benefits. So I like the way it works. I think it's a fantastic resource. I think once you spend the time investing in creating these links and tuning it in advance of the start of your course delivery, I think the payback will be at the end, as some of the marking can be done automatically. It may alleviate some support time, encourage them to go and use the resources that are there before they come see you. So I hope that helps you understand how it works and the benefits. So feel free to send me some questions, specific questions, if you want to learn more about MyMatLab and Brightspace. Hey, thanks for watching. If you have questions, drop me a line.